Hey guys, so it is Saturday as I am recording this. Beautiful, beautiful day. Let's see if I can get you, see, I mean, just look at that sky. Clouds, blue, it's awesome. I'm hanging out up in a tree right now. Just, figure nice day. I haven't climbed a tree since, I don't know, probably the fall. It's been a long time since I climbed a tree, so just thought I would give it a shot. And let me tell you, getting all of this stuff up into a tree, actually it wasn't that bad. I've got big pockets. It's the good thing about guys' clothes, you get big pockets. So guys, today, I just want to share, before we get into the message, I like to give some kind of an analogy thing for you guys to try and connect the message to. And today it's about video games. So if you're a video gamer and you're watching this, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you're not, well, hopefully I'll explain it well enough. In most role-playing video games, you've got magic and fighting and like that kind of stuff. And so generally you have at least two different bars of things you have to keep track of. One is a health bar to keep track of how healthy you are, how much health you have left, HP, whatever. And then the other one is like a magic bar. As you use spells and stuff, like that uses up your MP, your magic power. And then as you get hit with things, as people attack you, you lose HP. So generally, to help to fix this, when you're starting to run out of these things, you got potions. You have health potions, you have mana potions, and these things replenish your resources. So if you're running low on health, you pop a health potion, your health comes back up. You're starting to run out of magic power, you pop a magic potion, and your magic power starts to come back up. It's a pretty fantastic system. The problem is that usually, especially in like a turn-based game, you can only use one at a time. And so you have to choose, do I want health or do I want mana? Sometimes you're just in a tough spot and you're like, I need both right now. And so there are these super rare items. They're called Elixirs. And they can be used to replenish both your health and your magic at the same time. The problem is that they're usually very rare in the game. So, you want to save those for like boss fights and really hard fights and things that are coming. That's like, all right, I'll save this for like the final boss or something. And so the situation comes up. It's like, I could probably do this on my. I don't need to use an elixir for this. I'll save it for later. I'll save it for the final boss. And then the final boss comes around and it's like, I don't know if I'm going to need this or not. So you just end up not using it. And so you go through the entire game and you're hoarding these things. At the end of it, I'll finish like one of my favorite games, Final Fantasy VII, and I'll have like 20 elixirs, 10 mega elixirs, which heals the entire party. I didn't use these because I wanted to make sure I had them for the tough fights. And then when the tough fights came around, I didn't even use them. So I'm just hoarding these things. And at the end of the game, it's like it didn't even matter. Like I had them all and they didn't even get used. So today's passage is James chapter 5. It's the very beginning. Chapter 5 is the last chapter of the book. So, we're getting to the end of it. And it's titled Warning to Rich Oppressors. Now, I'm sure that none of you guys are rich oppressors. I'm sure you wouldn't consider yourself rich. Hopefully you don't consider yourself an oppressor. But I imagine most of you guys are not in any kind of a situation where you have a lot of power and authority over somebody else that you can then abuse. This chapter, or this part of the chapter, is warning against the abuse of power. And, we'll get into it. Okay. So, starting in verse 1, going through just to verse 6, James says this: "Now listen, you rich people. Weep and wail because of the misery that is coming upon you. Your wealth has rotted, and moths have eaten your clothes. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh like fire. You have hoarded wealth in the last days. Look, the wages you failed to pay the workmen who mowed your fields are crying out against you. The cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord Almighty. You have lived on earth in luxury and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves in the day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered innocent men who were not opposing you." And so guys, in this passage, we're seeing a warning against these rich oppressors. They have money, they have wealth, they have power, and they hoard it and they abuse it. They hang on to their money, they're stingy with it, they won't help other people, they won't be generous with it, they just want more and more and more and more and more. And in order to get more and more and more and more and more, they're willing to do whatever it takes. They'll kill people, they'll cheat people, they'll hold back money from their workers. Like, they do everything that they can to get as much money as they can. And James is warning them, like, guys, if you don't change your ways, if you don't start being generous, what are you gonna see at the end of your days? When this life is over, and guys, this life ends. When this life is over, what are you gonna have left? Nothing. Money, that doesn't last. Clothes, those don't last. Our material possessions don't last. You know, when we die, we don't get to keep those things. And so he's saying, guys, what was the point? Like, why did you hold on to these things? Why did you try to hoard it all for yourselves? Because at the end of your life, they're not going to matter. You can't take them with you. And the way that you've treated people in order to get all of that money, that's going to be held against you. So guys, this is a short passage. We've got some very quick applications that we can get out of this. And the first one is just a warning to us about the fact that the way that we treat people matters. If we treat them harshly, if we're mean to people, if we cheat people, if we murder people, that's not going to look good when we come before God. And he says, hey, Mike, why'd you do that? Why did you treat those people whom I love that way? And it's going to be held against me. If I'm hoarding my money, guys, this is application number 2, it's to be generous. I know this doesn't say be generous in the passage, but he's warning them that they're not being that way. You know, they're being greedy. They're hoarding their money, and at the end of the day, they don't get to keep it. So why are they bothering to hoard it and hold on to it and cling to it as if it's going to save them or as if it's going to carry with them into the next life? Because it's not. So our application from this is to not be like these people. God wants us to be generous with our money. Our culture tells us it's good to save. It's good to budget your money and save your money just in case something happens. And there's some wisdom to that. You know, we don't want to just be frivolous with what we have and just throw it away for nothing. But at the same time, the Bible tells us that we need to be generous. And guys, we may not think of ourselves as rich, but living in America, living in Metuchen, New Jersey, like this whole area, we really do live extravagant lives compared to some of the really poor people out there. If I'm hungry, I walk to the fridge, I grab a snack. It's that simple. And somebody who's truly poor, when they're hungry, there's nothing they can do about it. They have to rely on the generosity of others in order to eat every day. And so the challenge from this passage for us is to be those generous people. You know, we have a perpetual pantry at our church that supplies food for people who can't afford to buy food for themselves. And so they can come to the church and they can get food from there. So for us, you know, for myself, who I know that I have plenty to spare, I've started getting into the habit of whenever I go grocery shopping, I will buy extra food and donate it to the perpetual pantry so that other people can get food when they need it. And so that's an example of being generous with what we have. You know, God has blessed us with a lot. So let's use it to help people and not just hoard it to ourselves. And then the final application I want to take out of this passage is just to check our priorities. You know, for these guys, you know, they were concerned about power and authority and being in charge and having money. That's what they wanted. They were all about the material possessions, getting stuff, indulging all of their desires. And at the end of the day, none of that counts for anything. They die and it means nothing anymore. The money doesn't mean anything, the power doesn't mean anything, any kind of reputation they had doesn't mean anything. What really matters is how we treat people and what we do with the blessings that God has given us. So guys, we need to check our priorities because let's be honest, we're a pretty self-indulgent people. You know, if I want something, I go and get it. When I do have something, I like to hold on to it. And God is challenging us not to be that way. We need to focus on the things that matter, and that is people and how we treat them. So as you're going through this week, as you're going through the rest of your life, just be thinking about how am I treating people? How am I doing with the things that God has given me? Am I being generous or am I being stingy? Because guys, we gotta be generous. At the end of the day, anything that we have when we die, we don't get to take with us. So let's focus on the things that matter. I'll see you guys next week.